Welcome to It's Upgrade Season, the only place to get raw and unfiltered advice on how to get your shit together 1 week at a time. I'm your host, Alexandria, and join me every Monday for The Upgrade and every Friday for The Wind Down, where I'm going to be answering your dilemmas. Small shifts, huge upgrades. Let's fucking do this. Welcome back to It's Upgrade Season, and I'm very, very excited about today's guest. Let's just say her cookbook lives in my kitchen, and it is the most used cookbook I have ever owned. Like, I actually recently did a cull of our cookbooks because, as I've spoken about before, I am a bougie minimalist. Which I'm not sure is a thing, but I'm making it a thing. Like, I don't like to have too many things. I find it really overwhelming. I find it blocks energy. I find it clutters things, but I also like nice things. And recently, the cookbooks were I was going to say the victim, but the focus point, shall we say, of one of my declutters. And I really went through and I went through each book and I was like, does this align to the way that I want to be eating? Does this align to the way that I want to be nourishing my body or entertaining with friends? And so now my cookbooks, I feel like they're fairly extreme in terms of we have like the super healthy stuff, or we have things like the sprinkles cake book, because I do love a healthy cake, but if it's your birthday, I'm going to fucking give you full loaded butter, sugar, flour. Unless you're vegan or gluten-free, I will, of course, switch to dietary preferences, but like, I'm going to give you fucking proper sugar, you know? So the cookbooks are a little bit extreme. What I love about today's guest cookbook is it feels like the middle ground. What do I mean by that? She is a font of knowledge on eating super healthily and really nourishing, like fully nourishing your body. But her recipes are so fucking tasty. You don't feel like you're missing out at all. I genuinely mean that. Like, her recipes are the kind of things that you would cook whether you were trying to be healthy or not. Although I definitely just try and embody healthiness as a lifestyle these days. But it's so fucking good. And they're really good recipes to entertain friends as well. Me and Jake are massive on having friends around. We love entertaining. We love cooking for people. It really is one of our love languages and the way that we connect with friends. And her recipes really are a staple. So today we have Madeline Shaw on the podcast. Madeline's been in the wellness industry for 10 years now, another one of the OG girls. And she started her journey as a nutritionist and a home cook, and then later trained as a yoga and meditation teacher. Her Sunday Times best-selling book, Get the Glow, really embodies her brand and has sold over 150,000 copies today. And as I said, let me tell you guys, this really is the most used cookbook I have in my kitchen. She also has another one as well, which is also brilliant. If you have got her cookbook, make sure to check out the chicken satay recipe and also the vegan peanut butter chocolate banana bread cake. Oh, fucking amazing. Madeline truly believes that when you start thinking holistically about your health, taking into account what you're eating, how you're moving, and making time to focus on your mindset, then you can see great results and you can glow from within. And let's face it, we're in our mill season. We're in our upgrade season, girlies. We want to fucking glow from within. So today we talk all about the complexities of the health and wellness industry in the era of technology and the information overload. If you wear an Oura ring or a Whoop band or anything like that, you need to be listening to this, ladies. The pressure of following health trends, the challenges of maintaining balance, the importance of listening to your body, the role of nutrition in a healthy lifestyle, and embracing simplicity when it comes to healthy routines. I adore this episode. I hope that you enjoy listening to it too. Make sure to give us a review on Apple if you haven't already as well. And if you share me a little screenshot of you doing that, I'm going to send you a course for absolutely free. So enjoy today's episode. Hi, babes.
Hello.
I am so excited for this conversation. I'm just going to say this like right now because I know I've said it to you before, but I fucking adore your recipes. I know there's so much more to you than just recipes, but like when I say some of your recipes are our like go-tos, and we've used them for years and years and years as well. Like, yeah, thank you, because you kept us eating healthy but very tastily. So I want to get straight into it. And you are such a proponent of health and wellness on a mind, body, spirit level, really. I really get that from you. Like, it's not just one thing. It's about like the whole the whole thing. But I'm curious, these days we have this kind of interjection of tech with this as well. So we've got the Aura rings, or my husband loves his Whoop band, like even just the Apple Watch, you know, and people have it like vibrating because they're not stood up enough and all these things. I'm super curious, like, how do you feel this is supporting us? But do you think there's also a kind of, I guess, darker side to it as well?
Yeah, I definitely do. It's something, a conversation I feel like I'm having more and more is, and it sounds mean, but like how self-obsessed we've become about ourselves. And like you said, we can track our sleep, our heart rate. We can monitor our blood glucose levels like really easily these days. Obviously, you've got to buy the tech, and I think all this information is so great if you've got, say, like a really specific goal of, I don't know, getting stronger or sleeping better. But sometimes it's just to know more and more. And I think sometimes that knowledge isn't that helpful. If you've not got a particular goal in mind, it's just kind of learning more about yourself. And I actually think almost, you know, ultimately everyone's purpose in life is service to others and like giving back to others. And I think there seems to be this shift more about like, look at me, look at my stats, look at how good am I? And I guess social media has like kind of done that, because now it's like okay to make videos about yourself. And by the way, I'm saying this ironically because I am completely part of the problem, and that's okay. But I think it's just good to at least like have an awareness of it and a conversation around it. And I think maybe we're just gone slightly into being slightly more self-obsessed, and maybe we need to like shift it more into, I don't know, maybe the new wellness trend needs to be volunteering or doing charity work or giving back or something. I think that's what I hope to see the next big wellness trend to be, because I think, I don't know, I think focusing on yourself is really important, but you can get too deep, too much, too introspective, and that can be quite consuming. And then if you've not slept right one day on your watch, you suddenly think that you're a failure, when actually maybe we should go a little bit more on like how we feel. Are we waking up with energy? Can we complete the day like feeling good? And that's always what's motivated me, is like feeling good. Like I like, probably we all do, I like feeling good. So I try and do all the things that help me feel good on a day-to-day basis.
Oh my God, I feel like there's so much nuance to this as well, because my immediate reaction hearing that is also, I wonder if it's social media is aggravating it, in that we really tend to, I see a lot of extremes on social media. So it's very much like there's no middle ground. It's like very all or nothing. I think that's what I've always appreciated about the wellness habits and the recipes that you put out, where it's like, yes, there's health, but there's also like, there's cakes and there's like biscuits and there's, you know, it's not like let's cut everything out, let's just like be super extreme with things. But I think it's really interesting what you were saying then as well about the connecting outward part. Have you read Lost Connections? I think Johann Hari.
No, is it good?
Such a good book, because he's a journalist, but he like died. He was looking at depression, and he was saying, you know, okay, medication is one route, but what are the things that we can do? And one of the things that really stood out to me is, I think that's why it's probably called Lost Connection. I hope it's Lost Connections. I always like bastardize things and like get them confused.
I do it all the time too.
We'll link it in the show notes, whatever it's actually called. But he talks about how like human connection and like volunteer programs and things like this can be really powerful actually in supporting mental well-being, which is part of our physical well-being as well. So like, what are some of the things that you've incorporated beyond the nutrition, beyond the kind of what your sleep score is? And I want to talk about that a bit more in a minute, but like, what are the things that you've incorporated into your life in that respect that have really amplified your wellness?
That's a great question. I think it has been, they say above all, relationships are like the thing that will keep you the healthiest, live the longest, above food, above sleep, above movement, all the other kind of biggies. So I think I've been really just diving into my relationships and just putting more effort into my family, into like my friends, all my loved ones, and just focusing on deepening those, because I think that's what makes me feel seen, heard, listened to, cared, loved, all the kind of really important things. So I'd say I've almost feel like I've shifted a bit more. And I was talking to a friend about this before, like, it's all sacrifice. Like, we've got X amount of hours in the day, and some of them we have to do certain things. And then on the others, you pick and choose what you're going to focus them on. And sometimes that might mean that you don't, I don't know, get to do as much working out or as much watching TV or whatever the other things that you want to do. But I think having that awareness and of what would be your best use of time, and I'd say I'm probably doing more kind of good, real connections with the people I love more. That's been a big shift in me, as opposed to potentially trying to get into bed a bit earlier or wake up and meditate a bit more. I'm going backwards, going back to my 20-year-old self.
No, but I fucking love this conversation, because I feel like this is what's happening a lot. I think, yes, we have the extremes, but I almost feel like the antidote to that is we've realised, like, the extremes aren't the answer.
Totally.
Like, the extremes of, like, we joked before we started recording, the 3-hour morning routine with both mums is like, we can't ice bath, sound bath, like do all the baths, but like we can't do all the things like in the morning anymore. I think it's a really interesting conversation, this kind of like the trade-offs essentially.
Totally.
But I'm also curious, when you say that there's been that focus on relationships, do you think your definition of success has shifted as well?
Definitely. I mean, I think my definition of success shifted a long time ago, because when I was pregnant, I had like an office, 3 staff, like, you know, was earning a lot more money than I do now, but I wasn't that happy because I was just kind of staff management, because I didn't have a job, because I had someone cooking, I had someone doing social media, and I had someone like, you know, more PA every day, emails that. So I literally had no job, like, apart from like
just floating around.
Literally, I would like turn up to the office and I would be like, and I felt like such an imposter in my own company, because I was like, I've got to leave before they know that I've got nothing to do.
It's hilarious. I love
and
that.
I think in my head I was like, well, this is the ultimate, like, that's what you're aiming for. But I actually didn't, like, and I had to really redefine what I thought success was. So I think for a long time I was like, office, build, grow, scale. And then I think when I had my son, I was like, I actually just want to be the mum that is there at pick up at 3:20. And like, that's not to say, by the way, that I don't work really hard, and I have a great work ethic, and I believe in working, and I you know, grew up with a mum who ran her own business. But my thing shifted in the sense that I was like, I want to be able to work, but never at the capacity that I don't get to do all the things that I think are the most important. So I guess that has meant a sacrifice of income, a sacrifice potentially of what success looks like to other people. But to me, to be able to have a job that I can work within school times is the dream. And I feel really grateful to be able to do that. I know a lot of people would love that as well. And, you know, it's not possible with all jobs. But I very much crafted my job to be able to do that. And I feel, deeply grateful for that. And so that is what's success to me, which for other people may not be. But that feels right for me. And maybe, you know, when he's older, I can, you know, step it up more. But this is kind of the right scale that I want to be in. And I think also my mum worked for herself, so she also had that flexibility for holidays and after school. So I guess that was modelled to me, so it's all I knew as well. So it's not like I've had to fight for it. It's kind of the model that I saw I was brought up with, and then I just was like, well, I'm gonna do it too.
It sounds like a fucking great model. I'm like, I like this model. Sign me up. It's really interesting, and I'm really grateful for your honesty there as well, because I feel like I've had quite a few mums that, like, this isn't a motherhood podcast, and I always say, like, when we speak about motherhood, I think those lessons are really universal. Like, you can redefine what your definition of success is at any point, and like, I feel like prior to being a mother, I had to go through that multiple times already. But I find it really interesting talking about that shift and talking about that. And we've had quite a few mums come on and say exactly the same thing of like, actually, I sacrificed what
success looks like externally, or what I thought success was in terms of team, money, office, like all these things. But there's a deeper sense of fulfillment and like what I really want to, how I want my child to remember me as well, and like look back and be like, oh yeah, you know, mum came and got me from school, and that was amazing.
Yeah, no, 100%. And look, I don't think that being there for pickup makes you a better mum than not doing it in any way, shape or form. But I think you're right. It doesn't have to be aligned to motherhood. I think we're bombarded with all these different ways we can live.
Yeah.
And that's so awesome because we've got, you know, the fact that you can, like, that this is your job is so cool, right? But it also sometimes can be quite paralyzing because there's so many options, and you can live and work in so many different ways. And I think sometimes we're like, oh, we look at that person and we go, oh, that would be quite cool. And then you might try it and you're like, that wasn't for me. And then, you know, and I guess we have to just give it a go.
Yeah.
And I don't regret having an office. I don't regret doing any of that because I wouldn't have ever known. And I probably, if I hadn't done it, would be like, oh, maybe I'd like that. Maybe I could. And I sometimes get that in my head, you know, when I look at other people in my industry who are, say, launching big products or doing all those things. And I'm like, oh, I'd like that. And then I'm like, no, because then you'd have to work in an office.
Yeah.
And you'd have to manage staff and you'd have to do these spreadsheets. I mean, I'm sure you don't have to do that. But like, as in like, I know the side of that I'm like, actually, no, I like keeping it small. Yeah. And I think it's just, I guess it's all about knowing yourself, right? Like knowing yourself is the greatest gift you could ever give yourself because then you can say yes and no, like in a kind of really concrete way where you know what you want. And I think that's a great thing. And I think watching other people's journeys is so amazing, and you can kind of, you know, have a like live through them for a moment in time. And that I think it is very inspiring.
Yeah.
But equally it's just like being like, okay, but who am I and what do I want? And I think, you know, trying to live someone else's life is really, really unhappy because eventually you're like, oh, I didn't really choose this.
Yeah.
So I think knowing, and you only know what you want by trying. So keep failing. Like, I think that's definitely something. Failing at the time is the worst.
Yeah.
And you're like, why? But afterwards, it's like where you learn the most and where you grow the most. And I think, you know, it is such a crucial part of growing up, isn't it?
100%. I really want to like advocate for what you said there as well around like being aligned to you, but also like potentially keeping it small. Like I think we really get to, when I say glorify that, I don't think we have to glorify either being right or wrong, but just like give a bit more space and breathing room to that being an option instead of thinking like, the more you push, the bigger something gets. Yeah. I do also have to giggle though, because like your small's pretty big. Like I just have to reflect that back to you. I'm thinking about your cookbooks that I have at home. I'm like, babe, that's pretty. But I know what you mean. Like I had this the other day. I was in Holland & Barrett, and I used to have a food product business, and I saw this product on the shelf, and it's basically what we were doing. And I kind of gave it a stalk, and they'd gone into the US, which was on our plans and all the rest of it. And I had a moment of being like, why did I give this up? I should have carried on. Maybe I should get back into it. And then I thought about the reality of it. And I was like, I did not enjoy the reality of running that business. Like the behind the scenes of that was spreadsheets. It was like, how many jars can you get on a crate? Like all this shit, which could not turn me off more. Like it was just like the pits. So like, I think it is that check-in with yourself. And like you say, it's great having tried that, because then you're like, you've got that in the back of your head being like, no, babe, we went there. Wasn't great. But you also spoke about failure there. Yeah. What have been some of your failure? Everyone talks about the success moments.
Yeah.
What have been some of your failure moments where at the time you were like, fuck, but afterwards you were like, okay, that was great?
Oh, loads. Yeah, I feel like all the time. Even, you know, you talked about my books. Like I remember when I first wrote my first book proposal a long time ago, 2015. No, 2014.
Oh God, this makes me think we're old. We're not old, are we?
10 years ago.
No, we're not old. What? That's blown my mind a little bit.
And so many people said no, like turned up, you do your little pitch, you sell yourself, and they were like, we're really sorry. You know, we don't think you can sell a book. This is not right. And you have to sit there and you're like, it's quite brutal. And, you know, I luckily did get a publisher and it did have a happy ending. But, you know, it wasn't like easy and seamless and it didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
And then probably, what else? How many years ago? 3 years ago, I launched this online program all about finding your purpose with a friend. We became really good friends. She's called Pia in lockdown. She was a life coach.
Yeah.
And we were like, this is going to sell so well. Everyone wants to find their purpose. I mean, I thought it was great.
Yeah.
But like, it just didn't. Like, I can't remember how many it sold. Something like 30 or something.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it even... I think it maybe broke even. And it just didn't land. And I get it. Like, it's super different to what I talk about. I'm not a life coach. I'm not self-development. It is something I'm passionate about and I'm interested in. But it was very different to what I was talking about. And it just didn't land. Lots of things it have come and gone and have worked and haven't worked. And I would say something that I'm good at is making something happen. I'm not so good at seeing it through. But I struggle with. I'm like, I love that beginning, getting it ready.
Do you follow human design?
Do you know what? I've got her book.
Okay.
But I haven't found out my birth time. I need to call the hospital I was born at.
Can you do that?
Apparently so, yeah. Because I keep saying to my mum, where's my birth certificate? She's like...
Mums are in a different generation then. Like, I cannot for love nor money find out my husband's time of birth. Like, honestly, every family member has a different answer as well, which is just hilarious. I didn't know you could phone the hospital.
Well, yeah, so my mum says lunchtime that I was born, but I'm like, what does lunchtime mean? Could be 11:30, could be 3 p.m. So apparently you can call the hospital. I haven't done it. It's on my like personal to-do list.
Okay.
But I really, because I felt like when I started the book, but I felt like you need to know the time you're born, don't you? You need to know your thing. What are you?
I'm a projector, but I'm really curious now to know, because I'm wondering if it's something to do with your energetic blueprint. I feel like there's different energetic blueprints where like...
Do you know what? I'll find out, but I really like what she's doing. And she also started a food business, didn't she?
Who in particular?
Jenna.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So human design's a big umbrella, isn't it?
Yeah, big umbrella, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
So I've got her book. Yeah. But but I think I like hearing, you know, stories like you or stories like her. I think she had a food brand and then she's gone into human design. And it's nice to see that, because I think often we think, oh, I've got to do one thing and be really good at that one thing and stick to that and that's it forever. And I just think actually the reality is like we're going to have so many iterations of like who we are, what our career is. And I think that's really exciting, because sometimes when you're like, well, I'm not sure if I'm really passionate about this. Like, you know, you don't have to be like 30, 40 years of passionate. You can just be 5. And then when it's done, you can move on to the next thing.
I think that's so refreshing for people to hear. Like, I know I always find it refreshing when I hear it. I still remember someone turning to me saying, you need to know what you're doing for your career by 30, because otherwise, basically, you're fucked. Because, like, you need time to become a master at what you're doing. And I think that's actually really hard to hear, particularly if, like, I feel like I'm curious about your journey with this. Like, I feel like, for me personally, I've changed a lot.
Yeah.
Not in quick succession necessarily, but I do change and evolve, because I do like being on this journey of growth and diving deeper. Do you feel like you've gone through that, or do you feel like it's been like a slower, steadier evolution?
That's a great question. Yeah, I guess I got into health and wellness when I was about 21. I lived in Sydney. I was diagnosed with IBS and I was trying to figure out what was causing it. And that kind of got me on like changing what I was eating. I went to see a naturopath. I started working in this cafe cooking. And then I did also in tandem get into yoga and meditation at the same time, because I was also trying to kind of balance my stress levels.
Yeah.
I guess I would definitely say the very beginning of my journey, I was like, it's all about food. Food will change your life. Food is medicine. And I guess I'm now at a point where 100% it is one of the key pillars. But I think there are others that really, really affect the rest of your well-being, and that is like your friendships, your relationships, like spending time in nature, like any kind of mindfulness, whatever your jam is. And I think, not that to say that nutrition isn't important, but I think I definitely was like, well, it's everything.
Yeah.
And if you're not eating well, you're dying.
Yeah. Death sentence.
And I think most people, not everyone, but a lot of people, and me included, when you first get into health and wellness, you become quite like dogmatic and quite like, oh yes, you can't do this. And like, oh, is that water filtered? Oh, you know, like,
Totally.
like, and I think hats off, I totally get that. I was that person at one point.
Yeah.
Like, oh, has that got gluten in it? No way. And now I'm just much more relaxed, because I think I know that it's not, I'm much more 80-20, and I'm much more relaxed with what I eat and how I live, because I think I know that, yes, it holds importance, but not at the rate that I thought it did at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And I think that, to me, that's a nice place to be, because I think I used to definitely like stress when I used to go out to restaurants and be like, is this meat grass fed, and what oil have they cooked it in? And like, almost that stress was worse than just like eating the food. And like, again, then you're isolating yourself because you're not going out and you're seeing people, or you're not going to friends' houses for dinner. So I actually think that it's better to be more relaxed and not be too particular about it. And I think it also makes your life happier.
Yeah.
There's this like video, and again, I'll probably butcher it, but like the book you were talking about with Joe Dispenza about like bread, or like being like, how like, again, not dissimilar, how he's saying like all these people with like gluten allergies, and of course there are people with celiac disease, I'm not saying, but like a lot of people with gluten intolerance, like almost the stress about it and the mindset around it is the factor of the problems. And you know, he's all about meditation and mindfulness and you know, retraining your brain. And I think there is definitely that element of it, because I used to be so sensitive with my gut. Like, I'd eat a raisin and I'd like bloat, and like I would like eat some bread and I'd bloat up. And that is why I was quite strict on my diet. But I can now really eat anything, and it really wouldn't affect me in any way. And I think there'll be an element of, yes, I've probably built up my gut bacteria, I'm eating better. But I think there's got to be something in the mindset as well of not being too like, I don't know, panicked or obsessive about getting it right. And I think getting it right is definitely a limiting belief that's held me back. I don't know if you've had that at all, but I think in society we've got, like you said, these things of like, oh, by 30 you've got to have got your career, or you've got to be the person you're going to be for the rest of your life, or you've got to be having a kid within the next X amount of time. And I think sometimes these sort of stereotypes really trap us, because then if we don't hit the milestone or we don't do it right, we're like, oh, I've kind of failed. But like, that's completely just us telling ourselves that we have. And I think 100%. I'm trying to let go of the limiting belief of getting life right, because there is no right, is there?
Isn't that just the biggest fucking question of life though? Like, just try and like I totally resonate with that. Like, yes, career is probably an easy one to talk about, but like, I felt on every level, like, being a friend, am I a good enough friend? Am I doing friendship? Like, I fucking hate WhatsApp. I talk about this. Like, I find it so stressful responding to those WhatsApps.
It's a full-time job.
It's a full fucking time job. Like, I need to put that shit in my calendar. I don't have time in my calendar to just sit and respond to WhatsApps. But I'd also say I am a really good friend. I'm a super loyal friend. If anyone ever needed me, I'm the person that's like there on a shot, you know? So like, it's friendship, motherhood, like a whole fucking shit show of like, am I doing it right? Like, how have you actually found... I was going to say feeding your child. It sounded so weird and basic the way I said it.
I know.
But coming at it with this approach of all the knowledge that you have around nutrition, how have you balanced things like the birthday cakes and all those kind of, I guess, kids' party food would be like the stereotypical image I've had in my head, and all your knowledge of food.
Yeah. So I believe that, you know, he is his own person. He's not mine. He is him. Yeah. So I think when we are out, he can order whatever he wants and eat whatever he wants. At home, of course, like, he eats a lot of vegetables, good quality proteins, like, you know, he pretty much eats what I eat, without the spice.
Not into the
but
spice.
yeah, I just don't believe that, like, I need to restrict that, because it's not going to be long until, you know, I remember walking home from school at 14 and going to the shops and buying all the sweets. So I'm quite relaxed in that side. I think as long as 80% of the time it's good, I don't mind too much about the birthday cakes and going to other people's houses and stuff, because otherwise you're just stressed. You're stressed when they go for a play date. You're stressed when they're going to a party.
Yeah.
And that's not that enjoyable. And I always remember being told by a friend how she had a very, like, restrictive parent, you know, only ate lentils, never watched TV. And the minute she got a little bit of freedom, it went the other way. And I think, you know, I believe that there's, like, you know, obviously nutritious food is important, but there's also soul food. And, like, I really love eating gelato. I know it's not good for me, but it really feeds my soul. And, like, having it on a sunny day, whether that's in the UK or whether that's in Europe, like, I love it. And I wouldn't change that for blended bananas and raspberries, you know. Like, I also like to have a cocktail sometimes, and, like, I like that little buzz and that feeling, and, like,
I bloody love a glass of wine.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, and, like, I'm super aware. I'm not, as a nutritionist, promoting alcohol and sugar, but I'm aware of what it does. But I'm okay with that. Like, I really am, like, because I'm not doing it every night. And I'm not doing it because I'm trying to escape my emotions. I'm doing it because it fills me with joy.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the approach that I have to it. So I think I would be being very hypocritical if I didn't let my child eat sugar when I'm definitely not 100% doing it. It's obvious the effects that it has on kids, and, like, it does send them a bit bananas, and it you don't get the best version of your kid when they are
on a sugar low
on that thing. But I also think, you know, there is more awareness, and to be honest, the birthday parties I go to, there's an array of different foods. It's not, I mean, I don't, at least where I'm going to, it seems to be kind of fine. It's balanced. There's a bit of crap. There's a bit of good stuff, and you kind of make your way in it. But no, that doesn't kind of stress me out at all. I feel like, we've instilled some good habits, and that's the best you can do.
Just talking to you makes me feel calm. I think you just have a very calm energy in general.
Yeah.
But also, I think this is exactly what we need as, like, it sounds extreme, but genuinely as a society in general, it's like less of this extremity and more of this. I know people hate the word balance, but I would call it balance.
Yeah.
More balance. And when you said, like, oh, you know, I'm not promoting alcohol or sugar, I feel like, to me, it felt like you were promoting living.
Yeah.
Like, wellness as part of that is living and enjoying those moments in life where I was so in Italy with you and you said you're having gelato on the European. So I was like, oh, take me there.
And
Amazing.
I'm also saying this, like, I want to, with full transparency, that there was a period of time when I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And I have no regrets for that, because that's what I thought was right at the time. But I can now see how it would have held me back, because I wanted to be in bed at a certain time or not eat at a certain place.
Yeah.
And I think I've probably gone full circle and gone, okay, that's important 80% of the time, but some of the time just, like, let loose a bit more, and like you said, live, because we actually don't know how long we've got on this planet. And, like, I think, you know, when, you know, obviously when a loved one passes, it's awful and you have to grieve, but it also puts into perspective, doesn't it, where you're like, okay, how do I want to live, and, like, what's right? And I think just keeping reassessing that of, like, what's working, what's not, I think is a really good place to be. And I think, it's just helped me. Maybe you've got to go extreme to then come back to the slightly balanced side.
Yeah.
But I always remember when I moved back from Sydney and I first got into starting my food blog. This is 12 years ago. And I said to my mum, you can't eat gluten, and you can't eat grains. They're going to kill you. And my mum was like, yeah, but how about all of Asia? They like live off grains. And I was like, oh yeah. You know, and it's just like, I think my mum has probably been my guiding light of just like, just chill out a little bit. Like,
I'm only dying
it's
because
not, yeah.
I was vegan and I was the worst vegan ever as well, because me and my husband had this rule where we were vegan at home, but if we ate out, it was fine to have some meat.
Okay.
So like we weren't even great vegans. Like
Flexitarian.
There we go, flexitarian. And I remember going home and being disgusted at how much meat and fish my parents ate. And I think it was around the time of like the China study, was it, when that was like
that book.
when it was big into like veganism's the only way, like you're gonna die otherwise. And there was like the Netflix, maybe this was pre-Netflix, but there was some kind of documentaries that were basically like don't eat meat. And I remember getting home being disgusted by how much meat and fish they ate. And now it's embarrassing because like a big thing for me is I've really upped my protein intake and I feel much better. And I think everyone's different. Everyone's individual. For me, I feel much better eating a lot more protein. My blood sugars aren't as fucking wacko as they used to be. And now I just like think back of the times I used to shame them, and I'm there every meal now with some meat or some fish, and I'm like, oh God, but you just have to go through it.
You really do. And like, you know, it's good to admit it. And I think everyone's kind of done that. They learn something and they're like, I'm a bit superior to you. Oh, didn't you know? didn't you know that's really bad for you?
And then you come back down off your high horse and you're like, oh, okay, we're all here. This is great.
But you know what? It's interesting you saying that there's such a big shift back to animal protein. Like I've noticed it in, maybe I'm in a little bit of an echo chamber, but within social media, like you said, I would say 3-4 years ago, I remember when I put up recipes with meat in, oh my God, the abuse. It would be like, can't believe you're killing animals. Like
you directly.
Yeah, like me, it was me.
You're responsible.
And like nothing now. Like, you know, and I put out a lot of plant-based recipes as well. Like I've not gone into the carnivore, which is the other kind of extreme. But it's really interesting. I feel like people have really moved back more from eating animal products. And I wonder whether that's people tried veganism and it didn't work for them. Whether, like you said, there's this big shift of like up your protein, balance your blood sugar levels. That seems to be the like main target that everyone's kind of wanting at the moment. Those are the sort of the kind of key things. But there's been such a shift, and I don't know about within like your friends or people around you, but I've just really noticed how there doesn't seem to be as many like people talking about veganism in the same way, or at least promoting it in the same way. And I've seen a lot of big vegan, like, you know, food bloggers or YouTubers who have also gone like, it's not working for me anymore. And I started adding eggs and fish in, and it's such a hard one. And I think about it. I don't know why I think about it so much, but I think about it a lot. And it is like, I super understand that we need to eat less meat for the planet. Like we really do. But like, I do also think that an animal-based, including animal products in most people, not all people, most people's diets, is really beneficial and is much more absorbable, more digestible. And I just wonder, like, I don't know, I feel a little bit like, have we kind of stopped caring about the planet as much? Like, I felt like 4 years ago, everyone was like zero waste and reducing their plastic. And then kind of lockdown sort of, we couldn't do it anymore. Everything had to be wrapped in plastic, and we sort of wanted
use
it, right?
Your reusable coffee cup anymore.
You didn't want to pick up an apple that someone could have coughed on, or you know. So I just wonder. This is my thoughts. I think about is I really want us to. I do think that eating, you know, some form of animal products is a good thing for not everyone, but a lot of people. But can we sustain it? And like, what does the future look like? Tell me.
No, I know. No, but I get.
Do you ever think about it or not? Because when you went from semi-vegan to flexitarian, like, were you doing it for the planet? Were you doing it for your health? Like, what were? I love I flipped the interview.
Well, I know, I'm kind of here for it though. But I think it's so interesting having this conversation because one of the first things, and I will flip this question back in a minute to you, is like I wonder how fashion led we are. It's almost like trends. Like was that a trend, and now we're in the carnivore era? Is that like a trend? And like, does it all come back to essentially just fucking balance? Like have some veg, have some meat. Like I don't know.
It's so true.
But for me, it was more I care about the planet, but my husband really cares. Like he will start tearing up when he's like, my purpose is to try and like save the planet. But he's actually been really healing for me in his approach to it, in that so when we were like, I'm just going to call it flexitarian. I can't, there's going to be vegans who are like, Alex, shut the fuck up. But like when we were flexitarian, a big thing for him was like the planetary element to it. But then through the work that he does, he has a VC fund that focus on sustainable focused businesses. So businesses that want to save the world in some respect. You realize how complicated the conversation is.
You're so right.
For example, single-use plastic we think is the devil, but actually the energy that goes into creating glass, that's very energy intensive on the planet. And then the recycling processes aren't so there's just all these layers to it. And there are a lot of the grain that we grow can be there's just layers to it.
Totally.
But I think with the meat, the conclusion I've personally come to, and it's not perfect, and I'm sure there's people who could call me out for this, but we are just much more conscious of where we get our meat from. Yeah. We try and be really conscious of where it comes from, that it's, things like grass-fed. And again, we don't freak out if we go to a restaurant, but at home, where we can control it. Grass-fed, things like that. And I know for Jake, like he went hunting recently and it was wild deer. And he just said there was this like real moment of reverence of like taking a life and just like really feeling very connected to that animal and saying thank you for that. Now, I sound like a bit of a hypocrite there because I didn't fucking shoot the deer. Like he brought the venison home, but like I didn't shoot it. But I think it's just more that awareness is there. Whereas I don't feel like I'm the same person I was when I was maybe very, very much younger and just going to Tesco and buying something in a piece of plastic and just like, what's the cheapest bit? I don't really give a shit. I think there's just a bit of awareness and it's not perfect, but that's just the where I'm at.
No, I'm definitely the same as you. And I do it at Able and Cole, the
I love
delivery,
Able and Cole.
I feel like they're really good with like pasture raised, grass fed. Like I think they're quite good with their quality. Yeah. And I really enjoy that. But it's like you said, it's not. We want it to be black and white, and it's not. And to circle back to what you said about the carnivore diet, I think why we like the trends of like veganism is I think we like extremes.
So do you think I think trends?
Extremes sell. Like I think what's the new thing is the board, right? So the kind of what they have you not seen this? No. It's like they get out a chopping board and then they lay out like a big steak and then like a mango and like strawberries. I don't know if anyone else has seen it.
That sounds like the weirdest thing ever.
But like that's like, and it's like this is the carnivore diet, like and I think because it's so like different because there's no veg. I think it's no veg. Yeah, it's quite like, oh my god, like we've always been told veg is like king and number one, and I think it's that thing of like these extremes seem to sell, and I think people want like instant gratification, right? So like they want to like cut something out that's really extreme or take a pill that's has all these promises. And I guess my approach doesn't sell as much, which is like be a bit more balanced, like add an extra portion of veg in your lunch or something. And I still stand by my beliefs. I've never varied. I've never jumped on the bandwagon.
Yeah, true.
I read an interview that I did for Sunday Times Style when I was 24 years old. I'm now 34, so 10 years ago. And every point that I say today, it was like, switch off your phone at 9 p.m, like eat protein for breakfast. Like everything I've said 10 years ago, I say today. So I've been consistent. It's all I can say. But it doesn't sell the same way. Like, unfortunately, negativity sells. So if I said to people, stop doing this, like these are the mistakes you're making, like that is going to sell so much more. And
get your hooks in.
Totally, get your hooks in. And I did these two videos side by side as an experiment where I did, this is what this is how to start your day if you don't want to balance your hormones. And I went through all the things. I was like, wake up, look at Instagram, skip breakfast and drink 3 cups of coffee. You're starving at lunch, so you smash a Mars bar, then, or 3 protein bars. Then it was just kind of on and on, kind of also funny things that people do. I wasn't attacking anyone. I was just saying be on Netflix till midnight. And again, this is not to say that I also don't do this, but I was saying these are the things that actually could stop balancing your hormones. And then I did the one the next day of how to balance your hormones. I was wake up with the sunlight, go outside, get sunlight on your skin, add 30 grams of protein to your breakfast. Really simple things. The negative one, 4 times, 250,000 views.
Wow.
The non-negative one, 60 or something.
Wow.
And it's just it is sad because I'm I don't want to be that person. That's not me.
Yeah.
But it sells but it sparks something in people. Because it kind of, it's almost people are more motivated by shame or I don't know what it is. I don't know. A psychologist could probably unpick it better. It's I guess we know it, negative news cycle.
Yeah.
We read negative news over positive news, but it's just, it annoys me that it's in the health industry that people have to almost go into these people know that extremes and negativity sells, and I guess it is a business. So that's what hooks, and that's what gets the most views, and that's what gets the most spotlight, because unfortunately balance isn't as sexy.
Maybe I'm always an optimist, but I do feel though,
I hope so.
But I hope that also you're the person that people find when they realise extreme never works and extreme never lasts. And I do feel and I'm really curious your take on this, because I think it was, in fact, I don't want to call out specific people, but there was definitely one of these carnivore guys who I think was eating claiming he was so ripped basically because he ate loads of liver, and it turns out he was on steroids. And I also feel there's been particularly recently, I've noticed a lot of the wellness girlies, the women that were really promoting the gym and gluten free and all these things, have come out and said, do you know what, that I had really disordered eating, that wasn't healthy. Have you noticed that? Do you think we're coming into a state of balance, or do you think actually no, we're just onto these other trends?
I think you're right. I think people who've been in the industry for a long period of time are having that realization, because I think you're right. You can only sustain these things for a long period of time. And I think, unfortunately, to have abs as a woman, you've got to be such a low body weight that, and that's not particularly good for women. We need to actually have more fat for our hormones. So I think it's that thing of
Sorry, can I just dive into that? Why do we need more fat for our hormones?
So women, I think it's 20%, 20 to 30% fat, whereas men can be much lower. It's basically that's what produces our hormones. It balances our estrogen and our progesterone. So and it's why a lot of people lose their periods, right? It's because they don't have enough fat in their body. And that means that their hormones switch off. A lot of it's safety, right? So you don't have enough fat on you, I'm not going to produce a baby because you're not, your body's not safe. Our bodies kind of do that. And I know so many people that don't have periods, or have lost their period or don't have them. And I'm not saying it's all that they're underweight. A lot of it is stress. Stress is a big impactor on our cycles. A lot of it's coming off the pill or coming off certain medications that impact it. But I think it's good to have a bit of fat on your body. I think it is healthy for women to be in the correct range of body fat. And I think when you are eating too little or too being too lean, you might have abs, but you might not have a period. And it depends what your goals are. For some people that doesn't matter, right? They don't care. But for a lot of women, whether you want to have a child or not, actually your cycle is really important. It's not just about producing a child. It's kind of that cyclical nature that women live in. But I think being more realistic and being transparent is important. And you know, even for me, like I went through a stage of like, I didn't exercise for like 2 years because I couldn't make it to the gym. Like I was a new mum.
I was going to say, was
yeah,
this around the time you had a child?
No, I was 20.
Hard relate.
I was 25. And I definitely was like, I remember I got to a point where I was like, oh my God, like I'm in the wellness industry and I'm not even doing it. But a lot of it was just that I had to reassess, like, maybe it's just 20 minutes. Maybe it's a 20-minute like Pilates or yoga at home. And I think it's being okay with like, scaling it back, or not, like you said, not being on this extreme diet or not on this extreme exercise regime, and just being like, okay, this is my life. Like, what can I fit into it? And like, okay, you know, maybe I have to always like eat lunch at work, or because that's my setup, how can I make the best of it rather than kind of battling against it? And I started a year ago a platform called the Glow Space, which is like a digital well-being with movement meditation and mindfulness. And it was all kind of for people like me who are like, I want to be healthy, I want to look after my body, but like I don't have time for that hour class at Barry's that really takes up 2 hours with travel and shower and stuff. And I also want to meditate, but I've only got 3 minutes and I can't do it in a tent or a gong, like in a gong bath or something. And again, meal planning has been another thing that's really helped me again, because I don't know, like I work from home, and you know, if you cook your breakfast, that might be like 30 minutes out of a day, and you cook your lunch, it might be like another 30 minutes. So I just try and prep my breakfast and lunches for the week, and then I can just like eat them, get back to work, or go for like a nature walk or something like that. Because I do like cooking, but I also don't like cooking all the time, and I don't like washing up.
Hard relate.
I really hate washing up. It's like
the pits.
Oh, it's just, and I'm so messy. I don't know if anyone knows that. I'm like, so I do like on Wednesdays, my like filming day, I shoot most of my content. So sometimes it might be like 3 recipes, 4 recipes. And it's just like dishes and like.
It is, because I see the images on Instagram and like it looks so clean and clear.
Oh no, it's
like
so messy. I would definitely say that is a big flaw of mine. And like part of me, I'm like, oh, I wish I was that like neat like person, but also I know that slightly then becomes your personality because you're quite sort of regimented, and I know that's not me, so I just have to embrace the creative messy side that I am.
I adore
and maybe
this.
that's a generator. Oh my God,
maybe
make it and then leave it and be like, done. See you later.
I don't know. I think I have that a little bit as well. Like I'll run out of enthusiasm. Like normally when I've reached peak as well. Like if I go to bake a cake, for example, I might be really enthusiastic until it's in the oven, and then I look at the carnage around me and I'm like, I really regret this whole process. Like there's just stuff everywhere.
It's so true. Yeah, like you do. Like I mean, cleaning on the go is the way to be. It's the goal of life.
Tell other people to do what we don't do. That's great. I was going to ask you as a final question. I feel like you've covered it a little bit already there, but like really just like harnessing it into the whole premise of It's Upgrade Season is like small shifts, huge changes, and just like getting your shit together basically, but like in gentle, actionable ways. Yeah. So what would be like 2 to 3 upgrades that people can make in their health, wellness, well-being that are just practical? Because that's something I love about you. I feel like you are very practical with it.
Yeah. So I've said this for many years, but I think add protein to your breakfast. I feel like everyone's in their protein era, which is fantastic.
I love a protein.
But yeah, you know, and we generally people say 30 grams for women, 40 grams for men. I don't want you weighing out your food. That's boring. But like a fist size is quite good. So like maybe that's like 3 or 4 eggs. I know that sounds like quite a lot, but eggs really only have about 6 grams of protein. Or maybe that's a scoop of your protein powder in your smoothie. You know, Greek yogurt, some of them have like 10 grams per 100 grams. So adding 200 grams of Greek yogurt with like your oats, nuts and seeds or something, you can get yourself up there. Even if you've got like leftover chicken in the fridge, like whisk that with 2 egg omelette, add some spinach peas in or something like that. But I think that really sets you off for the day, because they say that most people have this massive dip at 10, 11 a.m. And a lot of that is just basically your blood sugar levels crashing. So when you eat that protein, you're just going to feel fuller for longer. You're not going to get those crashes. And I think that's the way we should be. We shouldn't be like a slave to food or energy. And I don't think we need to be snacking throughout the day. If you want to have a snack at 4 p.m, fine. But I don't think you need to have any more snacks than that.
That's so interesting. I am a reformed snacker. Like,
Are
I'm
you?
working on it. So that is, I'm going to note that. I'm going to be like, snacking is not the one.
Well, it's not, there's two elements to it. Of course, it depends on your day, and you might be being really active, or
No,
but
I'm not. I can assure you it's not that.
It's so our stomach takes like 3 to 4 hours to empty. So if you're always putting food in it every 3 hours, like, it doesn't have this moment to rest and digest, and we need that. So I think it's just having a little bit of a window. Again, everyone's different, and if you are like, I can't cope without the snacks, then keep going. But it might be just that you just need to eat a little bit more in your meals.
Yeah, I think I just need to go for a walk.
Yeah.
I think it's boredom.
No, I'm a
boredom snack.
massive boredom eater,
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes or like procrastination, I know I need to get to work and I'm like, what else could I eat in the house?
Honestly, I so get it. Okay, I love this. So adding protein is a huge one. Cutting the snacks. I feel like the food, can you talk to us a little bit more about the food prep one? I feel like that was like a good one as well.
So yeah, I try and do meal prep on a Sunday.
Okay.
And everyone's different. I like to make dinner fresh. Just feels like, I switch off work reasonably early to be able to do it. It's nice to have some things meal prep, but every meal is a bit much. Yeah. So I prep my breakfast, my lunch, and sometimes snacks as well. And maybe that's like a chia pudding that you like, add chia seeds, some nut butters, milk, yogurt, berries, or make a frittata. Often make like a big frittata with all the leftover veg or chopped up spinach or something, and you can just slice it up or reheat it in the morning. And then lunches, I love a tray bake, so just chucking loads of chicken, veggies, lots of spices, roasting it in the oven, then popping it in some glass like Tupperware containers. And that for me is really helpful. It just makes my life easier, because like I said, I don't like washing up, and then I just have to just eat out of the container and then put that in the dishwasher, which is good, because otherwise it's just always messy in the kitchen. But yeah, I find Sunday prep has been a big change for me, and I really, really enjoy it. And I think a lot of the time people want to eat healthy, people want to cook, but they don't have the time, and I think this really helps with that time saving thing. And then another little tip for upgrading is, sleep is so key. And I think 2 little things that we could change in our sleep is, 1, when you wake up in the morning, get into daylight. That resets your circadian rhythm. All you need to do is stand outside. You don't have to do anything fancy. And you can, like, I don't know, do your breathing, you could do your exercise, you could drink your coffee or your tea or whatever you like in the morning. And then the second thing is, don't sleep with your phone in your bedroom. I feel like this is something that loads of people don't want to give up. So get an alarm clock. Because I think it's too tempting. Like, when your phone is next to you, it is so hard not to pick it up. Because you can have whatever you're interested in immediately and whatever. And I know I'm guilty of it. So leave your phone in another room to charge overnight, because then you're not looking at that blue light that stimulates. It stops you producing melatonin. It means you won't sleep as well. It also means you're slightly on edge because you're waiting for the ping. Or the news update pops through, or you think, I'll just check it another time. And I think it's just not helpful for us. I think, as much as we can. And also, if you have someone that you love that lies next to you in bed, it's always annoying when they're on their phone, isn't it?
Oh my God, so annoying.
Like, you're like, look at me, give me love. And they're like,
and also it sets me on edge. I realised, like, I got quite anxious after having Leo again, and I noticed that I realised one of the mistakes that I was making was I'd got into a habit of looking at my phone first thing and having it on late until the night, and I never used to do that. And I think it was because we had the baby monitor on it and things like this. So, like, one of the things I actually want to do is switch to an old school baby monitor, because I don't want to have it in the room anymore. But even just now, like, putting it on Do Not Disturb, for example, has made such a difference. And I notice I'm so much calmer going to bed and calmer in the mornings, because I was just in reaction mode. I was getting up and I was reacting to everyone else.
You're so right.
Rather than being in my peace and my bubble, and then coming from that grounded place and responding. It was just like, straight off the bat, what does everyone else want from me?
Oh my God, yeah. And to be honest, I can still be guilty at like 7:30 a.m. Someone's like, I haven't got the link to this. And I'm like, oh my God,
I'm so sorry.
Like, I will get it for you now. And it's like, it's 7:30 a.m. You do not need to do it right now. It's a Saturday or like whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like I'm quite good with, well, I'm still working, but I'm quite good with boundaries. But yeah, I think having, do you know Marie Forleo? Do you follow her? She always says her. Like, create before you consume, or she might have she's probably got a much catchier way of saying it, but I like that idea of like, whatever you need to get done, whether you're, writing your podcast or I'm making a recipe video or whatever your work is, do it before you consume. Because when you're in consumption, you're just like, you almost are in that like, I'm shit, I've not done enough. They did it better than me. And you're like in this like thing.
You already said what I wanted to say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're like paralyzed, aren't you? You're like, oh, better not work today. No point. Just no point. And and interestingly to like talk about that now, because that's how I began. Because when I first left Sydney 12 years ago, I was like saying to a friend, I was like, I really want to set up a food blog, but like, it's already been done. And by the way, it had definitely not been done. There was like one book out there. But in my head, I was like, all the recipes have been done.
All the recipes been written.
It's saturated. I was like one person blogging. And I remember he was like, but there's only one you and you'll bring something different to the world. And I think we live in a time where like we really feel like, oh, everyone's done it or it's been done or like, but actually it's just so not true because we're so different. And I think that is like the most beautiful thing about ourselves and like all we can bring to like our work or our, our careers or our families or whatever, our volunteering that we do is like our uniqueness. And I think it's so easy to just like try and be someone else or try and think that that's what we should be. But actually our uniqueness is like what will set us apart, what will help us cultivate better friendships, better careers. And I think if we can all lean into that more, that's like magic, definitely.
I love this. Thank you for this conversation. I feel like it's been so healing on so many levels and also just so much fun. So thank you so much.
You.
So I hope you enjoyed today's episode and that it can inspire you as well when it comes to your healthy living journey.